welcome to our Zoom call that we're recording with Phil Baretela, who's the head coach of Rochester Institute of Technology. Phil, thanks for joining us as a guest today. Great to have you on the Zoom call. So we're going to learn all about Rochester Institute of Technology. We're going to learn all about you, Phil, because I got some questions. Even though I feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit, there's some, you read your bio, and there's some things that if you were, if you had your major in criminology like you do, you would investigate and you would think that there's something weird about the fact that you served in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for 21 years. And it seems like you might have done that while you were coaching. So we're going to hear about that. And we're going to hear about Phil's team that he's got right now. And if you haven't seen the pictures I've posted on the Swim Coach Academy, but actually I posted one on there, but the best one I've got is on Instagram, and it's of Phil and the crew after winning, I guess it's the Liberty League championship last year, right?
No, that was just a dual meet.
That's just
a dual meet.
A regular occasion of getting rowdy and having a lot of fun. So you can see, I think, the pictures really show the attitude of the team, and Phil, getting to know you a little bit, it seems like there's kind of like, because the program is now at a level that it hasn't been, and it really seems like it's a fun place to be, right?
Yeah.
And it just seems like, you've got this chill going on, but I know you get fiery too, and I can kind of see it in that picture. And I think that, that's a great combination. And it seems like everybody on the team, because I follow the Instagram site, and I follow the social media a little bit. It just seems like everybody's really into the way of life that you've kind of presented. So we want to hear a little bit about that. And then we want to hear a little bit about some of the athletes that you've coached that offline we were talking about, some of the guys that you've got that are swimming super fast right now. And some of the women that you've coached, like Anna, I think, am I pronouncing her name correctly?
Anya.
Yep. I'm going to talk about Anya, and I know I'll butcher the other athlete that was runner-up on the 100 back a few years ago. We'll talk a little bit about their performance too. So, but Phil, let's get into the bio. Okay,
Sure.
Let's get into the reason. When I'm looking at your bio, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So, were you a police officer, on the streets and that kind of thing? Tell us a little bit about that and how you presumably were coaching during that time.
Yeah, I learned to sleep anywhere. That's really,
like in a car and
in an office. So for 21 years I was with the sheriff's office. My degree was in criminology, and I had a great experience doing that. I was able to do multiple different things, from your general road patrol to I was on the SWAT team for 5 years. I did undercover narcotics for 3 years. I was on the scuba team for 5 years. So just a wide variety of different things within law enforcement. So it was a great opportunity, and now I have my retirement job. So
right on. So Phil, with the SWAT team, did you teach people how to swim? Because I know the SWAT team, at least from my experience of watching people in Naples come in and using our pool, did you teach people how to swim during that time? No,
that was more scuba. Getting them through the tryouts and all of that, and just being comfortable in the water.
Yeah. So during kind of everybody's doing the class, you were the one that was able to speak up and teach people how to do it a little bit better. Is that kind of how that works?
I didn't do the actual scuba training. We had our team leaders do that. But yeah, anything swimming wise or water comfort, I was the go-to in that.
Right on. So you swam at, what is the name of the New York school that you swam for collegiately?
It's SUNY Cortland.
SUNY Cortland. And so you were a sprinter at that point in time. Were you? How good were you?
I was okay. I was a decent Division III swimmer.
Yeah. And how far is that from where you are right now? Is that pretty close?
Yeah, it's 2 hours away.
Okay, so put the pieces of the puzzle together. You leave school with criminology. You've coached for a long time. Coached for seems like in that span of time. So were you doing the police work while you were coaching?
Yes. So I primarily worked midnights through a lot of my career, just so I could, coach.
Yeah.
In the afternoon. So I would basically wake up in the early afternoon, go coach. I also ran a club team for several years during that time as well. I go from sleep to college to club to work. And
Was the
then
club team at the college that you're at right now?
no,
It wasn't. Okay, gotcha. So you would just pull a double.
it's like a triple. Yeah. And
Right. That's really cool. So, and how long did you actually do that kind of coaching?
well, I've been coaching at the college level for all of my law enforcement time. I took the club on in like 2010 as a way to grow more as a coach, because at RIT, when I was the assistant, I was primarily a sprint coach. I'm like, well, my ultimate goal is to be a college head coach. Got to get a little bit more experience working with different types of athletes. So a friend of mine was looking for a head senior coach at that point. So I applied and said I was interested, got that. And then he moved on and I took over as a program director. So I was really able to start formulating my ideas of all the different training groups and how I wanted to approach things.
Yeah, and then you went directly into the head coaching role. So you've been there a total now 11 or 12 years. Is that right?
Actually, it's 17.
It is.
Yeah, I started here in 2005.
Okay. And so you were an assistant coach for a long time. You've been the head coach for 5 years.
Yes, my fifth
So
year.
were you straight through those 10 years as the assistant coach?
Yep.
Right on. Okay. So by the time you took the head coaching job, that was like, what was it like when you took over the head coaching job? Like having been an assistant, was it pretty seamless? Did you feel like you got respect from the athletes right away? How did you earn their respect?
It was pretty seamless on the athlete side. They were very supportive. I knew them. I work with them, and it's just my personality to interact with everybody anyways, whether I was coaching them or not. So they were, they wanted to be part of the search committee. They did a whole search committee thing, so it made my life stressful, but
Right.
So they were a part of it. I had former athletes write in and say, you got to look at this guy and all of that. So they were very supportive. So that transition with the athletes was good in a sense that, I knew who they were, I knew where they were at, and they had an idea of where I wanted to go with the program. Because we had talked about it once the previous head coach announced his retirement, and you're like, well, what would you want to do? And so, my biggest thing different would have been, I wanted to have that culture shift a little bit towards more of a team dynamic. It was a little bit more individualized previously, and I really wanted to bring in that unity aspect of it, that culture, that where everyone's working together, striving for bigger and better.
Do you think I want to come back to the police force, and do you think there's an aspect of working in that very, in particular with SWAT and scuba, you've got to be really team oriented. I mean, you're dependent upon each other for survival, literally. So, is there something that you took from that brought that team aspect in to your mentality as a college coach, or was that your mentality as a swimmer as well, or maybe a combination of both?
Yeah, I mean, in a specialized unit like that, everybody has a role, and every role is important.
Yeah.
The function of the whole is based on everybody's contributions, and that's really what we do here. And it's that thought of, I'm contributing not just for myself, but for the betterment of everybody. Obviously everyone has their own goals. They want to perform as best they can, but they don't do it at the sacrifice of their teammates. They do it in support of and in conjunction with what their teammates are doing. That creates a great energy on deck when the music's going, they're swimming fast, they're doing weird stuff. And
yeah, Phil, there seems to be maybe a little bit of goofiness in your approach with these guys too, like in the sense of like, you're going to have a lot of is that something you try to bring to the table a little bit with them? Like, are you goofy and do you bring that out with those guys?
I don't know if I'm goofy, but we we try and make it fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's some great personalities on this team.
Maybe
There's
that's the wrong word, but just like somebody that's just like wants to roll with it and just like have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, an example this past weekend, one of our swimmers had an amazing start. I mean, he was just explosive off the blocks, and it was phenomenal. And he's also our heaviest deadlifter.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it.
Right.
And they're all staring at me like, that makes sense. Yeah. So there's your deadlift right there. Just boom.
Right.
So,
How much do you pull?
he's at 405 on the X bar.
On a hex bar, yeah. Right on. You guys do all your deadlifts on the hex bar, not to get totally into the strength already?
No, they mix it up. Our strength coaches are awesome.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
another reason for our success is
We're gonna definitely talk more about that. I have one more question about the policing. So has there been a time where you've had kind of some intense stuff happen, where you've been kind of in an intense environment, and then now you're coaching on deck and you've got to bring it down, or you've got to kind of just like change into the coach?
now?
No, when you were policing, I'm looking for an example of is there ever a time where you were like out at night, like doing some major stuff that's like heady
Yeah,
stuff?
I mean, I'd get called away, get called out. There's been practices where I left because my friend got shot. It was just the nature of the thing. He survived, but you get those calls. It's like, here you are coaching, all of a sudden, you're out taking care of that. Or
Yeah, it's quite a double, it's a really different
life's easy now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So and you're married, you've got how many kids you have?
We have 2 left in the house.
Yeah, okay. And then is there one out of the house?
There's 3 out of the house, yeah.
No kidding. Okay, so you get a big family. That's
Yeah.
what are the age ranges on that? On
25 to 8.
Oh wow. Okay. That's a big range.
We're a Brady bunch, hers, mine, ours. So
Okay. Got it. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing with your squad right now, and let's talk about the team aspect first.
okay.
That seems to me like the real driving thing, that you came in with this attitude, like we're going to build this as a real team thing. What were some of the things you did at first, to kind of change it around, and what are some things you're doing now?
At first, it was really just, here's what I envision. Here's what I think is successful. I mean, we've all been part of different teams, and what are some of the things that mean team to you and are successful for you? And they throw out things like family and together and all of that. So we embraced unity as our common core. It's just that constant, why are we doing this? Who are we doing this for? We would sit down and say, okay, tell me something that you've done well, shout out another team member that they've done well, and what's a goal for the season, kind of thing. On our whiteboard, we have what we call weekly roars. It's where you shout out one of your teammates on the board. Roars, tiger roars. Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
Just simple stuff like that goes a long way, because then they'll come in and say, oh yeah, that person did do that, or yeah, they did do that. And then it goes into, when we train, we have days where the trash talk is allowed. It just can't be personal, but get each other going and just have fun with it. And they pick who they race. It's just such a dynamic environment of excitement, challenging each other in practice, and just racing each other in practice, trying to make each other better.
Well, shoot, now you guys are top 20, so there's got to be a lot of where are we going? Who's going to be on the relays and that kind of thing. A lot of energy. Do you think the energy is just? This year, is it different than last year? How is it different now than it was 3 years ago? Which minus the pandemic kind of energy.
Right. So 3 years. It's the expectation now is I've got to do my part. And if I don't do my part, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Because these are the goals we want to have as a team, and they really get excited by that. They really get excited about pushing each other. They really get excited about racing. you know, even in a dual meet, you're either warming up, cooling down, racing, or cheering. You know,
Yeah.
that's our mantra, and that's, you know, that's what we do.
It's just a subtle way of life. It's
Yeah.
just, like, this is how we roll.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like we do the same thing. We just, kind of encourage the talking. And I just basically walk around saying sometimes good teams talk.
Yeah.
Good teams talk. Let's keep it going. It's tough when you've got quiet people, and it's a little bit easier when you've got those dynamic leaders. Do you have the dynamic leaders right now?
Yeah.
Those guys on the medley relay that we were talking about, are those guys part of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you guys have captains?
We do.
You do. So how's that work? Like, do you guys have a vote?
We have a vote, and then the coaches, we make sure that it's okay. And then, you know, RIT athletics as a whole does a lot for leadership development as well,
Yeah.
outside of the program. So we get our leaders involved with that.
Gotcha.
We make sure that we have, you know, even our non-captains, we want getting them involved in SAC and everything else outside of
What is SAC?
Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So
Okay.
they really drive college athletics. As you know, any major decision, what does SAC think? Because they're really the voice of the student athletes.
Gotcha. So how would that come into play? How would SAC be used by you on a yearly basis? Like, what are some conversations that you might have with? And let's also talk about your. I want to talk about your coaching staff as well.
Yeah.
Like with your assistant coach, you're talking about things. What are you guys talking about that in relation to SAC?
Not too much in relation to it. One of my direct supervisors, actually, the head of SAC as well, he oversees it. But they really advocate for student athletes. So when the presidents, we'll use this year, for example, we're looking at going from 19 weeks to 144 days as our schedule declaration. And, you know, the SAC representatives are very much in favor of that. So with the President's Council, the question was, well, what does SAC think? And, you know, with their input, that shows where the athlete mind is. It's just a great chance for leadership development and having a voice in your sport.
So let me understand that. If you counted it by days instead of weeks, then you would get more days of training. You would get all those days. Is that right?
It still works out to 19 weeks, but you can break it up a little bit different.
Okay, you have more
You
flexibility.
know, like a training trip week. If you leave middle of the week, you don't declare that whole week anymore. You just declare those days.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. Or Thanksgiving week, you know, you could declare Monday and Tuesday, and they're home Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
That makes a lot more sense. So, okay, I understand that a little bit better now. Okay, thanks for that. So, okay, well, that tells us a little bit about your ideas with the team. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these individual athletes, and let's start with these men that are on the medley relay that we spoke about, because these guys are flying. You've got a guy that's been 23 low in the back, you've got a 24 breaststroker, you've got a 20-point flyer, and you've got a 20.1 freestyler right now, like last weekend. What is it about these guys in terms of training? Like, what are you doing with these guys? I mean, these are times, as I've mentioned, that some of the athletes that I've coached that are at Big Ten schools and Pac-12 schools right now are doing the same times.
Yeah.
Or not even doing the same time. So what is it that you guys are doing to get these athletes to go like really fast?
I mean, a big part of my approach is, we focus on power development, speed development. So if you look at our backstroker and breaststroker, they train primarily in our middle distance group, and our flyer and freestyle train primarily in our sprint group. And so even still, I mean, the philosophy is still the same. It's a racing mentality. I approach our practices as a rehearsal for a final performance, like an actor would do. You're rehearsing your lines, you're rehearsing different things. So you're learning your technique, you're learning your tempos, your stroke counts, kick counts, all that, and then just adding power and speed to it is really the simplicity of how I approach training. And we break up our week. So our middle distance, Mondays is a 200 day, Tuesdays is a front end speed day, Wednesdays is an active rest. day. Thursdays would be back half, and Fridays is some kind of race quality, and then Saturdays is, what didn't we do during the week that we need to make up, or a dual meet.
Right.
And within that time, or that system for them, we'll throw in our resistance work, which we do primarily in conjunction with our strength training. So it's you go on land and then into the water and try and mesh it.
Right. So they go land first.
Depends. It depends on their schedule, actually.
Oh, really? Okay, gotcha. So you don't really, it doesn't really pay to have a preference in that case because it depends on the college schedule.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But you line it up so it happens on the same day and during the same time frame.
Yeah, and then our middle or our distance people follow a similar track, with a little bit more volume to it, but our sprinters are a little bit different. I've kind of embraced the Virginia training model with that 36-hour break from Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, all the way to Thursday afternoon. So that they get that midweek break. And then we also include a lot more dry land in our sprint training.
Wednesday morning to Thursday afternoon.
They're off.
Wednesday morning, then they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday morning's off. And then they come back and they train Thursday afternoon.
Yep.
Huh. That's a great way to do it because they're still training every day, but they're almost, they're getting significant.
They're getting a big break. And yeah, I can't take credit for that. I think it started at NC State and then we brought it over to Virginia too.
Well, shoot, what can we take credit for? It's like, I think that's why we're all listening now, is to figure out what it is that we can implement into our programs and, what can we do to develop speed and power. I've got 4 young guys that are on my medley relay. And of course, our guys are different ages that we're coaching. Your guys are 4 or 5 years older than mine. Because I've got some people that are even younger in high school right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at some of the results from around the country and trying to figure out, in particular with the 200 medley relay, like how the heck, where's my breaststroker going to come from?
Right.
And maybe that can lead us into the discussion about your breaststroker. Because it seems to me like he's a 5th-year guy going 24. Were you in that same situation, perhaps? Like, where's my breaststroker going to come from? Or was he a breaststroker all along? Or tell us a little bit about this 5th-year guy.
Yeah, he wasn't really a breaststroker all along. He came in at he was a 220, 221, 200, like 102, 100 breaststroker. When I first saw him, because he was a transition. I didn't really recruit him because he came in as a freshman when I took over the program. So didn't really have a lot of interaction with him before that point. But if I was looking at a swim club, I'm like, hey, he'll probably do backstroke and maybe some IM and that. But yeah, and I saw his breaststroke.
So what's the deal? Let's talk about him because he's somebody that's going to be a key for you guys.
Yeah.
Got your breaststroker, and then you got a relay. If you don't have a breaststroker, you don't have a relay. And he's 5th. Is he a captain by chance, or is he?
Is. Yep.
Okay. What's his name?
Brendan Cap.
So what's the deal with Brendan Cap?
He's just one of those that loves to come and train and race.
Uh-huh.
And it's a funny story. He's had quite the journey. So his freshman year at our conference meet, he false starts in the 100. So didn't get to race it. There was some kind of noise behind him. His sophomore year, which was 2019, he actually set the conference record in the 200 breast, and they called him on his last turn for a one-handed touch.
Oh.
No video review on that, so I lost that argument.
Christy and I have the same reaction to that one.
Yeah, so I set the conference record. It's like, oh no, he could see his just score, but whatever. We couldn't.
Wait, both those things happened the same year?
No, 2 years apart. So first year he got disqualified in the 100. Next year he completed the 100 and got disqualified in the 200. So then it was our COVID year, where we just tried some different stuff, and he swam well for what we did. And then last year he broke the conference records of both the 50 and the 200. Or I'm sorry, the 100 and the 200, as well as our both our medleys set the conference records as well. And then he just reset his conference record on Saturday in the 200.
For reference, off the 220 coming in, what is he now?
He's 200.1.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite an improvement. What about 100? He was 102 coming in?
102.
What's he going now?
He went 55 last year. He went 56 on Saturday. Like I said, three-day drop. So we'll get him down 55, 54 by February and March.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you had your medley relays kind of, you know, 2 guys are going to the sprints, 2 guys are going to the mid distance, and he's kind of a little bit more on the mid distance side, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like he likes to grind it out a little bit more, that sort of thing.
If you can call, we do grinding. It's a lot of. Yeah.
He'll give him a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like, you know, like what's your aerobic stuff for kind of your mid distance guys that maybe isn't quite as heavy as other teams might be? What are you getting away with for a 200 guy, like in terms of that?
What am I getting away with?
Yeah, in the sense of like, you know, like Dave Salo's approach is always like, you know, let's figure out how little we can train, or less time, how little time we can train, not how little we can train it. You know, basically how efficient we can be.
Yeah, I would say reading Dave's stuff has been a big influence on me. I've talked to him a few times on Zoom calls. He wouldn't remember. You know, here I am talking to Dave Salo. I remember. But just a cool little story about Dave Salo is, you know, years ago I was looking for his Sprint Salo book and it was nowhere in print. So I'm like, I'm just going to email him, say, hey, where can I find it? And he just sent it to me by PDF. So, right. Yeah.
He's like that, I think, in the sense that he wants people to understand what he's talking about. He loves coaching swimming, and I've found him to be just really, you know, an approachable person with that. And so, okay, and he also did a day, like a big day off thing. He did like a 3-day on, 1 day off thing back in, I think it was 2000, 2004, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Phil?
I don't remember that, no.
It was when he had Lezak, like before 2008. It was like before 2000. This was leading into 2004, and he had a big group of post grads. And I remember this because Lezak was getting married and had to figure out what day was kind of like the off day.
Yeah, when can I get married, right?
And so he's doing 3 days on, 1 day off, and also reminds me, you know, what you're doing not only of Virginia but of that speed skater Niels Vandenpoel doing like a full weekend off. And
yeah,
that's important to recognize, because, and that's kind of what I mean also by getting away with, you know, it's like the traditional thing is like everybody's going to grind it out like it's every single day, you know. It's like, what can we sort of do to maximize recovery and also in the collegiate environment, get people to like have some free time and have some time where they're, you can get them back on that Thursday, right? And
yeah,
imagine on Thursday they're a little bit, you know, I don't know if how much experience you have with the other way. Can you speak to that? Like what the difference was with seeing them come in on a Thursday off of that Wednesday morning?
Yes, because I changed it this year because last year I wasn't happy. They were good, but they weren't as good as where I thought they could be. So yeah, I mean, last year I'd look and they'd be tired at the end of the week, you know, in a meet setting, not having as much pop. And right now everything is flying, and the two, so Jake and Mike over our flyer and freestyle and the medley relays, and you know, both of them were 46 highs last year as their best times. They both went 45s this year. So just that, you know, in 8 months, just a little tweak and really training to their strengths, I guess is the best way to put it. And it was an adjustment. They're like, well, we're not doing anything. What's all this dry land? And you know, so you know, just walking through it, holding their hands through it, and you know, they start seeing the results and you know, have those mid-season times faster than their rested times last year. They're just like, yeah, we're ready. Let's go. This next part of the season is going to be great. You know, they're in finals now, so they're all stressed. But you know, after that, they go home and we go to Florida for training. And you know, just the attitude right now from everybody is they're ready to go.
Do you feel like, Phil, you guys swim fast in practice, you know, a good amount of time? Do you feel like, you know, each week, you know, you're touching some speed like pretty much every day or every other day? How does that work within your program?
As far as
like swimming, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm thinking about like how athletes look in my program when I start giving them a little bit more speed work and, you know, and they're kind of like and I guess I'm not sure exactly what you do with your program in terms of the endurance and speed balance. Maybe you can speak to that. But I know, when I kind of pull people from kind of a little bit more traditional club swimming endurance training, and I kind of give them a little bit of a break with that. Actually, Chris is a great example, because I saw it with her when we worked together years ago. And it's like they go into even the endurance training sets after doing, let's say, 60% more active rest pace, resistance work, that kind of thing, 40% the other way, as opposed to 70% endurance, 30% pace, right? When I switch into that, the endurance stuff even becomes like, whoa, we can't even slow them down. I mean, the way you're describing the way athletes are looking right now, it's like, can't even slow them down kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's, a lot of my endurance is descend anyways, or negative splitting, just kind of even within that training realm is with a little bit more volume. It's something fast, something where you're adjusting your speeds in that. So, a lot of it's descend.
Something from this year that you've done. Like, what's an example like of just some kind of set where you're like, okay, this is going to be, we're going to make sure we finish 200 type of set.
Finish a 200 type of set. We're going
just like build endurance type of set, maybe is a better way to say it.
Yeah, we may go, hundreds, we'll go 150s or whatever, 100 build freestyle, and sprint 50 stroke, 200 pace kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
We'll do our blocks of 200 pace, so we'll go, different rounds of 4 to 5 200 pace 50s.
Right. That's what I'm getting at, because so I'm interested in, as opposed to like just a straight, like, let's say you did all the 150s kind of as a descend the whole 150 or descend the whole 200. You'll go 150, then you'll put some speed into it. You put some pace into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I mean, that's and maybe there's something too, like I was saying with the athlete that I'm thinking about on my squad. Maybe there's something to that where like you put the pace in and then they come back to the endurance. It's like they're just kind of floating it.
Yeah. And we've talked before, I do a lot of, on my active recovery stuff, it's a lot of drill. So we'll go fast and maybe break down a little bit. And then, we'll focus on drill as part of a recovery to get them back swimming properly. So the next repeat, they're at their fresh stroke again.
Do they go right into the drill, or they do like a 25 easy and then they go into the drill after the hard
25
stuff?
Easy could be drill, or a 50 easy could be drill.
Okay, so you're going like, it's like huffing and puffing on the wall, push off, and then immediately right
into something, smooth.
Okay, so I feel like this is now going to be maybe taking us into talking about your sophomore breaststroker, Anya, right now. Is that something that because it seems to be like that's something that would be so good for breaststrokers. Is that something that you put into her training also? Speak on the way that she trains, and she trained differently than everybody else. She kind of do what everybody else in the group does. How's that work?
She sets herself apart by her effort. She's there, she's getting it done, but she's so quiet. So it's really funny. Here's this she's great for our program. It's just quiet as a mouse. So it's fun to watch. But yeah, she gets in, does what's asked, is very receptive to feedback. Just a pleasure to have, even if she's not the most, rah swimmer. Yeah. But she still goofs around with her teammates. She's a little bit more relaxed around her teammates, I guess.
Yeah.
But
so what sets her apart with the hard, like, is she, okay, so she works hard, she busts it, but what types of sets is she the best at? Like, what's an example? Give us an example of something she's actually done recently or last year.
Let's see. We do a lot of 50 repeats, and she'll go through IM order, because she does our 400 IM.
Right.
So just everything is, here's my goal pace. I'm right on. She's building confidence with each time she swims something. Never discouraged. So to pull a set out of my brain, when I realized that she was going to be really good was last year in Florida. We did a set of 400 IMs long course, and she beat everybody. The 4 IMs weren't all straight. They were broken up a little bit. A couple of them were straight, but she crushed the guys, the girls.
Too.
She was just nonstop, just grinding it out. And it was just so much fun to watch. And even the guys were like, yeah, she's got to do the 400 IM. And she's like, I don't know. I don't like 100 fly. So, but yeah, she ended up with the 4 AM.
Same day as the 100 breaststroke, right?
No.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, we're a 4-day format. So
okay.
4 AM is day 2, 100 breast is day 3. So it really works out for the breaststrokers.
Yeah, that work. And that's great. They can, because a lot of people wouldn't choose to do that. I love the 400 IM, and I just think it like
choose. She said, I don't want to choose. You pick which one I'm going to swim at conference. And I said, well, you're going to 4 AM. She's like, all right.
Yeah. Did she win the Liberty League conference in that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now when she's trained, does she do power stuff? Like,
oh yeah. She's her legs are so strong. She's great in the weight room. Yeah. You look at her, it's just all muscle in her legs.
Okay. Let's talk about the weight room. Let's talk about that. Cause I mean, there aren't that many collegiate teams that actually have an IG handle that's geared towards the strength. And it seems to me like your crew, from the outside looking in, not only is strong and works on being strong, but they're psyched about being strong.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's like, I've got kids. Maybe they're going to be, NC2A athletes at some point. That would be a dream situation for me to have them in, where they were excited about like who they were and like what they were doing. And, I think that's really cool. So how much do you have input with that? And tell me about your strength coaches.
We'll sit down. I mean, I pretty much live in the weight room. That's my happy place. So I get along great with them. So we're always talking day in and day out about different things, but for sure, they know our training pattern. They know, when we deload, when we're going at it, what meets we're targeting. And it really just follows a similar schedule. So right now we're talking about they're 2 weeks at home. So they've got their strength program to bring home with them. Our sprinters have their dry land program to bring home with them. And then we're going to gear up for training trip and our intersession break. And then, we really start talking about resting.
Yeah.
So they look at what we're doing in the pool. We look at what they're doing in the weight room, and it just all meshes. They're 2 great coaches, a lot of high energy, and yeah, it's a good working friendship.
I imagine they see the athletes training sometimes and at meets at times.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. They support us or sending texts and, following on Instagram. The RIT strength is actually run by our strength coaches for all of our Division III athletes. So
how many teams do these 2 strength coaches have within their responsibility?
16.
So each of them, and how many strength coaches?
They split them amongst each other, but there's 16 Division III teams that they work with. And
it's just these 2 coaches.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so they've got to really be organized. How is that organized within the weight room? Do you guys have tablets and that kind of thing? How do you guys measure?
Yeah, we have tablets. All of their workouts are on an app called Coach Me Plus that we use, so it's all on there and they can track everything. But there's iPads on the racks where they can pull it up too, and it's also on the televisions. But then they input their own data. There's health assessment surveys in there, performance surveys, and how you feel and that kind of stuff too. They fill out and we can monitor.
So, okay. So tell me more about that. What do they actually fill out within that?
Online, it's just a questionnaire, what's your level of soreness? What's your perception of your workout? That kind of stuff. How much did you sleep? All that. How much water? What have you eaten?
So do the strength coaches get sort of a red flag if something's off, or how do they use it?
Yeah, they can take a look at it. There can be red flags, but a lot of it is, it's performance based. we can tell when they're on by what their vertical jump is, so we test that. And, if they're bouncing good or better, they're doing pretty well physically. And it would show an attitude. If they're not jumping as high, there might be something we need to look at and address. And, in a weight room situation as well, you can tell mood a lot better than you can in the water, because your face is out of the water, your expressions are there.
Right.
So it's really just knowing your athletes and knowing their personalities.
So Phil, you're there with them in the weight room a lot or all the time, or how does that work?
No, because I'm usually running the pool part of it, but I'll go over and spot check on times. But yeah, but when I work out, sometimes there's an athlete making a lift up in there, or they'll just come see me work out too. So it's
sure. Yeah. It's kind of like office hours.
Yeah.
I'll
be at noon. So
yeah, I'll be like 8:30 to 9 in the office, and then from 9 to noon
I'm in the weight room. Yeah.
That's great. What else do you measure? So you measure the jump. So that's something that I think that's old school Doc Councilman, like figure out who the sprinters are, measurement. What else do you actually measure?
Your reaction time is another thing to look at.
Okay.
That's another thing. If they're sluggish, okay, what's going on?
Oh, right. To see if how their health is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What about do you do any heart rate stuff or anything like that to measure that?
We don't measure it as much. Our heart rate stuff is more just monitoring where they're training, we're in training, but part of our survey is your resting heart rate. So we can take a look at that too. Yeah.
Okay. And just I'm thinking about all the numbers, and if you added them up and divided them, they got to be a certain number to be overall healthy. So if you're outside the range, then yeah.
But I mean, going back to police days, is just knowing human interaction and human behavior. You can tell when someone's on, you can tell when someone's off. And when I see someone that's off, that's when you bring them in and say, hey, what's going on? You can really gauge just by facial expressions and by mood.
Yeah. So you're turning people around in the middle of the week kind of thing.
Trying, yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that's an intentional thing for you too. And I just knowing you a little bit, Phil, I know you want people to have a good week, or you want people to have a good day. So I can just see it. You tell somebody on a Tuesday morning, hey, let's talk before practice today, get your work done. And, I want to help you out with whatever problem you're having. Can you give us an example of something that's happened, over the last year or two that has been sort of maybe even outside of the pool stuff that people are dealing with, and you maybe caught something?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of, there was a lot of stress with COVID, that, and just meeting people where they're at, making sure that they have the right resources. We've referred people and said, hey, go talk to this person, go talk to that kind of stuff, or what do you need from me? How can I help you? Because they'll come to me with, I'm stressed about this, I'm stressed about that. And my question is, what can I do to help you? How can I be there for you? Because I want to be there for you, and I'm always here for you, but how can we figure this out together? Is it something you want me to intervene with? I mean, there's obviously things that we would have to intervene with for a safety standpoint, but just, your day-to-day things, it's important for me that they know that they can come to me at any point. My doors are always open. It's a rare thing right now, because I close the doors for this, so it'd be quiet, but the office is always full. There's always athletes in here talking, laughing, studying. This year they've found a website that has all the old Jeopardy games on it, so they'll play Jeopardy in the room, and just
just
being together. Creating a community.
Right. It's creating a community. I think about in my high school, you reminded me of there was one kind of it's kind of an administrator that had couches in a bigger room, and people could kind of go from the cafeteria into that room and just spill out. And it was just a really more of a laid back setting. Right. Yep. And I think your office is probably more of a laid back setting than, in the suits, on the deck, ready to get in the pool. They're able to really let their guard down. And clearly with the way that they approach you, you've probably got people, I was going to say kids, you've probably got people, student athletes that are like, they're saying to each other, like, yeah, I went to Phil and this kind of like talked it through, and now I'm doing this or whatever. I'm trying to, or do this to solve my
Yeah,
conundrum.
I hope so. I don't know for sure, but I would hope that would be something, because I know they can come to me. That
Yeah.
much I do know, but how much they talk about stuff like that amongst each other, I don't know.
Yeah, just so important to have that open,
Yeah,
literally open door, but then have the eyes,
right.
because you're reading people, having the eyes that say I'm approachable, having the eyes that say come in the door,
Yeah,
let's figure this out, because that's really where the fast swimming is going to happen.
yeah, yeah. When they're having fun and feeling good, they swim fast. That's the simplest form of what we do.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit before we close up our discussion today. Tell us a little bit more about your athlete from the past that was a runner-up in the 100 backstroke. And first of all, what is her name, and what was the story with her? Because that was, I mean, where did she go in the 100 back to go runner-up also?
Yeah, her name's Sadara Zabranik. She came to us from Texas. She was some kind of media arts and design major. So very creative mind. Just an absolute training beast. Just love to train, love to swim, love to race. So I was her primary coach her last year. She swam with the previous head coach the 3 years before that, and was successful. At that point she went like 56 high in the back, 56 high in the fly. It was like a 201, 150, 201 in the, or 202 in the 200, and 151 in the 200 free. So very good Division III swimmer, qualified for nationals her first 3 years and never placed. Got to the meet, didn't do as well maybe she would want to. I think 1 year she was hurt. She had a shoulder injury, I think her second year. So she didn't compete. But then and she was also one of them that was a very high advocate for me to get the position as the head coach. So we had that relationship. And when I came in, it was, let's tweak what you're doing a little bit. Let's add a little bit more power, a little bit more speed, and just really see where we're at. And she ended up going 55 low in both the back and the fly. So she dropped like 1.3 in a year.
Yeah.
She, like I said, she was a hard worker and is a training beast. And, the little bit more speed work and power work that we put in benefited her.
She had to place well on the fly also then.
Yes, 12th. Yeah. 12th in the fly.
Okay.
And it was her last year. She didn't want to do the 200 back. So we put her in the 100 free and she got 17th. So
right.
She just missed it.
Right. But she got the big 100 back. Was that on the same day as the fly?
No. Nope.
Okay. You had a 4-day schedule.
4-day. Yep. At NCAAs as well.
Is she somebody that's still, did she ever come back into the pool area and like hang out with the team or anything like that?
She's living in Europe right now. So, but
That's
yeah,
tough.
she'll be a Hall of Fame inductee in a few years, I'm sure, and we'll get her back for that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great story. So where did she came from Europe?
No, she's from Texas.
Oh gosh. Oh right. Okay.
And now she just,
yeah, but she
why
came
not? Right.
pretty far away. How did she get sold on Rochester Institute of Technology as a media arts and design person from Texas?
Yeah, we had our major and a swim team.
Right. And as far as the major of you described it to me, Phil, as it's not criminology, but it's what's the big major that you were talking about in terms of surveillance and what I'm getting at, right?
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity. Speak on Rochester Institute of Technology's cybersecurity program.
Oh, it's the best in the US. So they win all the competitions. We've got this amazing cybersecurity institute on campus that has, it has a war room where they're doing hackathons, and they're, it's all a closed environment, and they're it's real world experience. They're fighting viruses and fighting hackers and all of that.
And their placement is, you had mentioned to me, like among the highest in the country after school with actual security jobs.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of our programs are 5-year programs because there's a year of co-op in there. So they're working a year full time in their field. In addition to going to classes, they're getting that experience twice a year. We have 200 plus companies right across the hall recruiting our students for full-time work, for co-op work. So they come to us, they look for us. And
Right across the hall.
Yeah.
How's that?
They set up in our field house.
Gotcha.
So our building is the pool and the field house.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Rochester Institute of Technology is a place to go if you're watching this and you've got athletes that are in high school. This is a place that, you've heard of Kenyon and Denison. And it's like, why, we're talking, Phil, before we started recording, why Denison and why Kenyon? And props to them. They've done a great job. And the reason they've done a great job is because they've had great coaches. Mm-hmm. Jim Steen was at Kenyon and he just got them to a different level. Yep. And at Denison, you've got Greg Perini, and he just got him to a different level. And a good friend of mine, Scott Armstrong, is at Hopkins, and he's just really trying to take the program to another level. Of course, they've got a history with George Kennedy having taken it to that level. But everybody ebbs and flows, right? You go up and down, and trying to get up to the top 3 in the Division III is really difficult task. Williams is, at least I think, to my knowledge, recently been really getting up there onto that top level.
Yeah, Emory's in there. Yeah, they're all there's legacy programs, and we have athletes that can compete with them. They're at the top of the game. There's no lie, but
clearly,
clearly,
they're when you've got the medley relay times, mid-season that we've been discussing, it's to me, it's a place where, I've heard it, with an athlete that I've got on my squad who's, not looking at RIT right now, but maybe he should have been. Talking about, like, I want to take my 21-5, 50 butterfly split, or whatever it is, 20. He hasn't been 21-5 yet, but 22 low, 50 fly split. He's talking about he wants to go, in the low 20s. And it's like, okay, this is a place where this is happening. At RIT, it's actually happening right now. Really legitimate fast swimming in a culture that seems to be really fun and cool, and just a really engaging place to be a part of. So
that's the goal.
Congrats to creating that, Phil, and good luck for the rest of the year. I know that we're all going to be rooting for you. Everybody that interacts with you different times when we get the chance to, we're all going to be pulling for you. So
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, everybody have an awesome day. Christy, great to see you. John, good luck at your meet. Kick some butt, and signing off.
All right.